I'm Jake, 35 years old, and until recently, I thought I had a firm grip on my life. I've always been the type of person who plans ahead, keeps things organized, and rarely allows myself to slip into chaos. I've spent years building my career, working my way up the ladder, and finally setting the groundwork to start my own business. Everything was in place. My life was orderly, predictable even. What I didn't expect was for it all to be derailed by the people I thought I could trust the most, my own parents. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a day like any other. I was at my desk, head down in paperwork for my new business venture. I had been working tirelessly on this project for months, prepping to leave my corporate job and dive into something I was truly passionate about. The hours were long, but I didn't mind. I was finally on the cusp of turning my dreams into reality. My focus was sharp until the phone rang. The call was from the bank. I almost didn't answer it, thinking it was some random telemarketer, but something in the back of my mind told me to pick up. That decision, in hindsight, changed everything. The woman on the other end of the line informed me that I was responsible for a $150,000 loan I had supposedly co-signed. My immediate reaction was disbelief. There had to be some kind of mistake. I hadn't co-signed anything, certainly not for that kind of money. I've always been careful with my finances. Growing up, I wasn't exactly close with my family, and I definitely wasn't close enough to be co-signing massive loans for anyone. The bank representative was polite but firm. She assured me there was no mistake. My name was on the documents, listed as the co-signer. She even offered to send me a copy of the loan agreement for my records. The pit in my stomach grew heavier as I listened. The air around me felt thick, like I couldn't breathe. I knew in that moment something was terribly wrong. I tried to keep my voice steady, but panic was already seeping into my words. "Who took out the loan?" I asked, praying it was some kind of identity theft, maybe some random scammer who had somehow gotten hold of my information. But when the words left her mouth, it was like the floor dropped out from under me. "It was taken out by your parents." I froze, gripping the phone so tightly I thought it might break in my hand. My parents? I couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. Why would they need to take out such a massive loan? And worse, why would they use my name without telling me? My mind raced with a million questions. I hung up the phone and immediately dialed my parents, my hands shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. When my mom answered, there was no hesitation, no denial. She admitted it outright. She and my dad had forged my signature to co-sign the loan. My heart pounded in my chest as her words sank in. They hadn't just lied to me, they had committed fraud. And for what? It didn't take long to find out. The loan was to pay for my sister Clara's wedding. Clara, the golden child. The one who had always been the center of my parents' world. The one who could do no wrong, even when she did everything wrong. We hadn't spoken in years, and for good reason. Clara had always been entitled, spoiled, and selfish. I had made peace with the fact that we were never going to have a close relationship, but never in my wildest dreams did I think my parents would go behind my back like this for her. They didn't even bother to ask me for help. They just forged my name, figuring I'd deal with the fallout. I felt a wave of white-hot anger crash over me. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. About the fact that my own parents didn't respect me enough to come to me first. Instead, they made a decision that could ruin my future, my plans, and everything I had worked so hard for. All because they wanted to give Clara the extravagant wedding of her dreams. I tried to keep my cool as I asked my mom why they would do something like this. Her response was so casual, it made my blood boil. "It's your duty as Clara's brother to help with the wedding," she said, as if that somehow justified committing fraud. My dad jumped in, trying to guilt trip me like he always did, going on about how family should help family and how it was my responsibility to fix things. But this wasn't just some family spat. They had broken the law. They had put my name on the line without a second thought. I lost it. I told them straight up that they had crossed a line, that they had betrayed me in a way I could never have imagined. They knew I was about to quit my job and launch my own business. They knew how much this venture meant to me, how much I had sacrificed to get to this point. And now, they had put all of that at risk for a wedding I didn't even care about. But, as always, my mom started crying. She always cried when things didn't go her way, when she couldn't manipulate me into doing what she wanted. My dad played the same old card, guilting me with the idea that suing them would ruin Clara's engagement, that it would embarrass the family. But I didn't care anymore. I was done being the responsible one, the one who had to clean up their messes while Clara got everything handed to her on a silver platter. I hung up the phone, my heart pounding, my mind racing with what to do next. My first instinct was to protect myself legally, but then the bank sent me the loan documents, and it all became crystal clear. This wasn't just a long-term debt. The loan had to be repaid in 2 years. Knowing my parents, there was no way they'd be able to keep up with the payments. They had already admitted they couldn't afford the wedding without taking out a loan. What made them think they could pay it back? It hit me like a ton of bricks. They didn't care. They knew they couldn't pay it back, and they also knew that when they failed, the responsibility would fall on me. They had gambled with my future, knowing full well that I'd be the one left holding the bag. That was the breaking point. I wasn't just going to sit back and let them destroy everything I had worked for. I decided right then and there that I was going to sue them. They needed to face the consequences of their actions, and I wasn't going to let them off the hook. But before I took that step, I did something impulsive, something that, in retrospect, I probably should have thought through more carefully. I went on Facebook and found Max's profile. Max, Clara's fiance, had no idea what was going on. He didn't know about the loan or the forged signature, and I figured he deserved to know. I sent him a message, laying everything out: how my parents had forged my name, how they had taken out the loan for Clara's wedding, and how they had put me in a position that could ruin my future. I didn't stop there. I messaged a few of his family members too. If Clara knew about this and was okay with it, Max needed to know what kind of family he was marrying into. What followed was an explosion of chaos. My phone blew up with calls and messages. My parents were furious, accusing me of ruining Clara's engagement, of airing our family's dirty laundry. But honestly, I didn't care. I was tired of playing the role of the quiet, responsible son. I was done being taken advantage of. To my surprise, Clara reached out to me too. We hadn't spoken in years, and now here she was, furious that I had ruined her life. She claimed she had no idea about the loan or the forged signature, and that she would never have allowed it if she had known. Maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe she really hadn't known. But at that moment, I didn't care. Whether she knew or not, I wasn't going to sweep this under the rug. Days passed, and I found myself torn between the desire to protect myself and the guilt of knowing I had put my family's dirty secrets out in the open. I had hired a lawyer and started gathering evidence, but part of me still wondered if I had taken things too far. Maybe I should have handled it privately. Maybe I should have given Clara a chance to explain before blowing everything up. Then, one morning, there was a knock on my door. It was Clara. She looked defeated, nothing like the entitled, spoiled sister I had known all my life. Without a word, she stepped inside, and as she sat down, I could see the weight of the situation had finally hit her. This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was about family. about the years of tension, resentment, and betrayal that had built up between us. And then she dropped the bombshell. "I knew everything," she said quietly. "I helped them." In that moment, everything changed. I watched her, trying to hide the mix of emotions that surged through me. Clara was sitting in front of me, a mess of vulnerability and regret, and it was almost unrecognizable. The Clara I knew, the Clara who had always gotten what she wanted, the favored child, the one who never had to clean up her own messes, was gone. In her place was someone lost, tired, and beaten down by the weight of her own actions. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Jake, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even asking for that. I don't know what else to do. I've ruined everything. I lost Max. I've lost my pride. And I probably lost you too. But I'm tired of pretending I'm the victim. I need to be honest." There was a part of me that wanted to lash out at her. She had made my life a living hell for years, basking in our parents' adoration while I was left to fend for myself. I wanted to scream that she didn't deserve my sympathy or my forgiveness, that she had been the architect of her own downfall. But as I sat there, looking at her, I couldn't bring myself to say any of it. There was no victory in this. Seeing her like this didn't bring the satisfaction I thought it would. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "Do Mom and Dad know you're here?" She shook her head, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "No, they don't even know I was involved from the beginning. They still think I'm mad at them for pulling you into this mess." That was typical Clara, always trying to keep her hands clean, even when they were stained with the worst of it. I stared at her, feeling the heavy burden of all the years I had spent being second best, always the one left picking up the pieces after her chaos. "So, what do you want from me?" I asked, not entirely sure why I was still entertaining this conversation. Maybe it was because a part of me, buried deep down, still craved some kind of resolution, no matter how hollow it might be. "I don't know," she admitted quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't think I deserve forgiveness, but I had to tell you the truth. You deserve that much." We sat in silence for a long time, the weight of her words settling between us like a thick fog. I wanted to tell her to get out, to leave me alone, and never come back. But I couldn't. The years of unresolved tension between us were too complex for a simple goodbye. I wasn't sure if I was ready to cut her off completely, no matter how much I wanted to. "I'm still going to sue them," I said finally, my voice steady. Clara flinched, but didn't argue. "I figured." "And you," I added, my eyes meeting hers. She swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "I understand. But I'll tell Max the truth, that you came clean, that you weren't just hiding behind Mom and Dad. Maybe that'll help." "I don't know." Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in her expression: relief, gratitude, maybe even hope. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice cracking. I watched her as she left, the door closing softly behind her, and I felt an odd sense of power. For years, Clara had been the one in control, the one our parents adored and protected at all costs. But now, I was the one holding all the cards. It should have felt good, but it didn't. The satisfaction I had imagined wasn't there. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired of the endless family drama. Tired of the lies and manipulation. Tired of the weight of being constantly compared to her. Later that night, I sent Max a message. I told him everything Clara had confessed, sparing no details. I didn't sugarcoat anything, but I also made sure he knew that she had come forward, that she wasn't hiding anymore. Whether that would make a difference to him, I didn't know. I just wanted the truth to be out there for everyone's sake. Days passed, and the chaos I had grown accustomed to seemed to subside. For the first time in a long time, there was silence. No frantic phone calls from my parents. No confrontations with Clara. No new revelations or crises. It was almost eerie. Then, one day, my lawyer called. "They want to settle," he said, his voice tinged with surprise. My parents were willing to negotiate. I didn't know if it was because they finally understood the seriousness of what they had done, or if they were just too exhausted to keep fighting. Either way, it felt like progress. A part of me wanted to drag them through court, to make them pay for all the years of neglect, favoritism, and betrayal. But another part of me, the part that had been worn down by years of emotional exhaustion, just wanted it to end. As the settlement talks began, I felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved that this might finally be over. On the other, I couldn't shake the feeling that no amount of money could fix the damage that had been done. This lawsuit wasn't just about a loan. It was about a lifetime of being treated like I didn't matter, like I was always second best. I had spent years standing in Clara's shadow, and now I was finally stepping out of it. But even as I felt that sense of empowerment, there was an underlying sadness that I couldn't ignore. These were my parents, after all. No matter how much they had hurt me, they were still my family. And cutting them off wasn't as easy as I had thought it would be. One evening, out of the blue, Clara called. I hadn't heard from her since she had come to confess, and I didn't know if I wanted to answer. But I did. "Hey," she said softly. "Can we talk?" I sighed, rubbing my temples. "What now, Clara?" "I'm leaving," she said, her voice small. "I'm moving to Colorado." I blinked, taken aback. "You're what?" "I've made a mess of everything here, Jake. Max is gone. Mom and Dad are. Well, you know. And I don't have anything left. I need to start over, somewhere far away." I didn't know how to respond. Clara, the golden child, the one who had always been at the center of everything, was running away. It didn't seem real. But then again, nothing about this situation had seemed real from the beginning. "When are you leaving?" I asked, unsure of what else to say. "In a week," she replied. "I just thought you should know." There was a long pause. I didn't know how to feel about her leaving. Part of me was relieved that I wouldn't have to deal with her anymore. But another part of me, the part that had always hoped for some kind of resolution between us, felt strangely hollow. "Okay," I said finally. "Good luck, I guess." "Thanks," she muttered. "And Jake, I'm sorry for everything." Her apology hung in the air, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. It was the first real apology I had ever gotten from her, but it felt too late. Still, I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Yeah, me too." The call ended, and with it, any hope of fixing the broken relationship we had never truly had. Maybe it was for the best. Clara was gone, and I was free to move on with my life. In the end, I accepted the settlement my parents offered. It was enough to set me up for the future, but more importantly, it was my way of cutting ties with them. The lawsuit had been about more than money. It had been about standing up for myself, for the first time in my life. As I signed the final papers, a sense of relief washed over me. I wasn't sure what the future held for my family, but I knew one thing. I was done living in their shadow. This was the start of a new chapter, one where I was in control of my own story. And for the first time in years, I felt free.